This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Good evening, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, and welcome to another wonderful edutainment, infotainment edition of the Artivist Thinks, Thought Provocateur. I'm your host for this empowerment, enrichment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2, the Artivist, and welcome to the We All Be Info movement, because knowledge is the currency of the universe. I'm doing this right now. We're in the midst of Kwanzaa celebration, the Black nationalist holiday for Black Americans, Kwanzaa, which was started by a guy named Dr. Karenga back in 1966. At least that's the official story anyway. But I'm going to talk about, because there's an interesting thing about this Kwanzaa movement and about its founder, its so-called or alleged founder. Now, I had posted something in my social media timeline on Facebook that said something to the fact on the first day of Kwanzaa of 2018. This is what I said. I'll make it perfectly clear of what I said. And I'm a thought provocateur. I'm not interested in trying to cheerlead for one side over the other. I'm a fan of the truth and telling like a TI is, as it relates to a lot of things. And truth is not really popular in a system built on lies. Like, we just came from a holiday or a holiday or whatever you want to call it, where Black people have given a fat white man credit for buying their kids Christmas presents. You rather have the white man have credit for something he didn't do. That sounds a lot about this system. Like, the white man gets credit for stuff he didn't invent, like rock and roll. A lot of things that they say the white man invented, like the cotton gin. You know good well Eli Whitney did not invent the cotton gin. It's invented by probably one of his slaves. We found out recently that even Jack Daniels was invented by a Black man. And we also know that Thomas Edison had a whole bunch of Black folks. People like Granville T. Woods working for him, creating things that he got all the credit and glory for. But with that said, this is why I said in a post on social media via Facebook, Kwanzaa was founded by a man who allegedly was an agent provocateur who killed Black people and tortured women. Now, I said the word allegedly. That's like a little legal term to protect my ASS assets, but he actually was found guilty of torturing women in a court of U.S. law, and he served anywhere from 4 to 5 years. I'm going to just quote some things. You can find all these things. Just take a look. It's all online, and it is sad to say that our people, a lot of us don't take the time to do research for research's sake. You know what I'm saying? We get all emotional, and I'm going to probably read some of the feedback I got from their post originally, but I'm going to read, in 1971, 5 years after Kwanzaa's founding, Karenga was convicted of felonious assault and false imprisonment for torturing 2 women at his Inglewood, California home, crimes for which he served 4 to 5 years in prison. You can find all this easily online. There's a quick Google search about the Kwanzaa founder going to prison, torturing women, whatever you want to type. I guess he had his Rick James moment. It sounded like, he was living in some type of commune. His home was like some people call it a harem or whatever you want to call it, but he had a lot of women admirers around him at that time. But this is what the Los Angeles Times reported on May 13th, 1971, reading a direct quote from the Los Angeles Times news article from May 13th, 1971. Deborah Jones, who once was given the Swahili title of an African queen, says she and Gail Davis were whipped with an electrical cord and beaten with a karate baton after being ordered to remove their clothes. She testified that a hot soldering iron was placed in Miss Davis's mouth and placed against Miss Davis's face, and that one of her own big toes was tightened in a vice. Karenga, head of US, that's his organization, the US organization. Us against them, but the Black Panthers called the US organization the United Slaves, which was never their official name, but that's what people. Okay, anyway, continue with the quote. Karenga, head of US, also put detergent and running hoses in their mouths, she said. They also were hit on the heads with toasters. So this is a Los Angeles Times report talking about the women that Karenga allegedly assaulted in his home, who were his followers. And I heard things over the years about Karenga, about who really founded Kwanzaa. I know when I was going to undergrad, I know some of the black professors I respected did not celebrate Kwanzaa because they didn't like the history, the backstory of its founder. A lot of these people were admirers of the Black Panther Party. You know, in this system of white supremacy, how they keep white power, it's not really white supremacy, it's white mediocrity. How they keep power is about divide and conquer. They divide and conquer the majority of the people on the planet. That's how these small group, evil, wicked-minded folks keep their power and privilege. So I just read you a quote from Los Angeles Times article. This actually, I'm looking at the Roots article about Kwanzaa revisiting Malana Karenga. Malana, I guess, is African for master teacher in some language. Karenga's legacy. This is the Roots article. I know people got issue with the Roots. Some people in the black conscious community don't really care for it, but man, we're not our enemy system. And a lot of these folks that call themselves woke, they still believe that what CNN and MSNBC and Fox, what they reporting is actual facts when it's just propaganda. And they still bow to that lie every day and every night, getting their emotions out of order. You know, when you are in emotional distress, it could cause a physical illness and sickness of the body. So they keep us all emotionally confused with this BS. But in this article, Karenga has also been accused of rape by people within his community. Today, though he seems to be too beloved or perhaps inconsequential for any criticism of him to matter, in 2006, Rosemary Little, president of the Colorado Springs NAACP branch and communications director of the ACLU Colorado, told the Gazette that she was not even aware of Karenga's past and that it didn't change her thoughts on Kwanzaa. It doesn't diminish for me Kwanzaa because Kwanzaa is not based on any kind of charismatic personality or a personality of any sort, but more on community. And the article further states, this may be true since the creation of Kwanzaa was a collective endeavor, but the question remains, with what community in mind? Now, that's, perspective. And like when I made the social media statement, I was not attacking Kwanzaa, let alone Karenga. I said allegedly. And also, with a quick search of internet engine, you can find out information about Karenga's sordid past. And with that said, he was a founder or co-founder of the US organization. So who is US? US organization was a black nationalist organization founded in the 1960s. Ron Karenga was born Ron Everett, July 14th, 1941, on a chicken farm in Maryland. And so it was co-founded, the organization of US, with Hakeem Jamal, formerly known as Alan Donaldson, who was the cousin of Malcolm X. See, Malcolm X, in a lot of ways, was the spiritual and ideological father of both the US organization and the Black Panther Party for self-defense. He was their spiritual and ideological father in terms of his politics and viewpoints and stuff like that. At least at the beginning for us, but definitely for the Black Panther Party for self-defense, he was the ideological father of that organization, and his cousin was also founder of the US organization along with Karenga, and they ended up having a split because Karenga wanted to be more about the culture, like he was more invested in the cultural aspects of the so-called civil rights or Black Power movement, whereas Brother Hakim wanted to carry on what Malcolm started, and he was more into the radical politics of everything. He didn't see the necessity of Black Americans learning Swahili and necessarily dressing them in dashikis. He was about the business of trying to liberate the people on the same, I guess, level and tone of Brother Malcolm, his cousin. But Swahili, people gotta understand Swahili is a language that originates from Eastern Africa. Most of what our ancestors, if you are a so-called Black American, most of our ancestors came from Western Africa, from the transatlantic slave trade. And they're going to do some observance next year, because 2019 will mark the 400th anniversary of the first so-called enslaved Africans, I believe, coming to the Americas, to the so-called New World. And there's all room for debate, but I'm just wanting, that I'm learning more information about Karenga and us and Kwanzaa today just by people getting pissed off at me on Facebook caused me to do more and deeper research. It's amazing what you can find. I never heard this guy named Hakim Jamal, but he was the cousin of Malcolm X, who's co-founder of Kwanzaa and us, along with the brother Karenga, Melina Karenga. And he had Hakim Jamal. White women loved him overseas. He had a thing for white women. I mean, he was married to a sister, but he had a thing for white women. He was in love affairs with the actress Jean Seberg or Seberg. Then she ended up killing herself because the FBI and them claimed that she was pregnant by a Black Panther that caused him some type of emotional distress. I think she killed herself, committed suicide. Jean Seberg. And he had a love affair with his publisher of his book about his cousin and his relationship, his cousin Malcolm X and his relationship. Diane Atthill, I believe it was a white lady's name. We had an affair with who was his editor and the publisher of his book they did about his relationship with his cousin, called From the Dead Level, Malcolm X and Me. So I'm going to have to find that book. I don't know if it's still in circulation, but I'm going to find it. From the Dead Level, Malcolm X and Me. It came out in the early 70s. Now, this brother had also a relationship with this white woman, this young 27-year-old white woman named Gail Benson, whose father was a prominent British politician in Parliament. But she was like, some people describe her as his white woman slave. She followed him around the world like a puppy dog. It seems like she was very infatuated with him. She ended up getting killed crazy in a commune in Trinidad allegedly by the followers and allegedly by Michael X, his brother named Michael X, who was known as the Black Power figure of London. He allegedly had something to do with killing her because they claimed that he said that the white girl was causing brother Hakim mental stress. So that's interesting. So they basically macheted this young lady, put her in a plot, in a burial plot, and buried her alive. Like, you look all this stuff up online, man. I'm just finding out this stuff right now, today, which is fascinating. Yeah, Gail Benson, Michael X ended up getting hanged. He was found guilty of killing his cousin as well, because he burned down the commune house in Trinidad and left for Guyana or somewhere in South America. And that's how they recovered their bodies. They were, I guess, informant told them that there were some people buried on the premises. So they found her body. They found that she was buried alive because she had dirt in her lungs. I mean, she was actually buried alive when they put her in the ground. And the other guy was Joseph Scarrett. I believe that was Michael X's cousin. So he never got tried for Gail Benson's murder, but he was tried for his cousin's murder, and they hanged him, I believe, in 1975. But he was a cause celeb. I mean, he was real good friends with people like John Lennon and Yoko Ono, they supported him. Even Dick Gregory, Malcolm X met with him. That's why he changed his name to Michael X in honor of Malcolm X, from what I read. But he was he became a trial. His trial became a rallying point for people to try to support him. And I don't know if he really got a fair trial, because people can say a lot of things about you when they're trying to save their own ass. So I don't know if he actually was the one who killed the girl or even his cousin, but it is what it is. But I found out about this is fascinating. Just looking for information about Kwanzaa and Karenga. But these were like interesting times we were living in. Y'all know I talked to Judge Joe Brown about why he doesn't celebrate Kwanzaa. And y'all do know from my, just doing my shows with Judge Joe Brown, that Judge Joe Brown was a student activist at UCLA during the 1960s. He was right there in the middle of everything. Now, he was going to school at the same time that a man who used to be known as Lou Alcindor, a.k.a. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of the greatest basketball players who ever lived on both the college, the collegiate, and professional levels. Some might say he's even a GOAT, but he was going to UCLA at that time on the UCLA basketball powerhouse team coached by John Wooden. So Judge Joe Brown actually was responsible for recruiting Black Panther members like Elaine Brown, like Al Prentice, Bunchy Carter, and John Huggins to UCLA. So he told me why he don't celebrate Kwanzaa, because the founder Karenga, who he also knew well, who was a young grad student himself, and his US organization. He blamed the US organization, Karenga's organization, for killing Al Prentice, Bunchy Carter, and John Huggins at UCLA on January 17th, 1969, while they was meeting about who's going to control, I believe, the Black Studies Department or program at UCLA. Like, it was us against the Panthers, and a shootout happened, and all we know is Al Prentice, Bunchy Carter, and John Huggins lay dead after that encounter. And I believe it was some brothers who were the Steiner brothers, something like that allegedly did the shooting. Now, Geronimo Pratt, who was Tupac's godfather, who served almost 30 years in prison for a crime he did not commit, I remember seeing an interview he did. He did not necessarily blame, after, he'd been in jail for years, and, he heard things, he did his research. He did not really put the onus or the entire blame on the US organization. The same machination that put him in jail over some BS was the same machination that caused that real and tragic event on UCLA campus on January 17th, 1969. What I'm talking about is the government program known as COINTELPRO, Counterintelligence Program, which was engineered by J. Edgar Hoover. Now, I can make a case that the COINTELPRO program was not started in the 60s, but was actually started in the 20s when the FBI took down Marcus Mosiah Garvey, arguably the greatest black mass leader this country ever seen. They took him down on mail fraud. And I always tell people that's how J. Edgar Hoover and them got their power, really. It was not taking down these so-called public enemies like John Dillinger and Pretty Boy Floyd. It was taking down the greatest threat to white mediocrity in this country, who was a black messiah sent to unite the black masses and electrify and unite the black masses, Marcus Garvey. So even thinking about that famous FBI memo that came out about the black messiah. So you say the FBI really made their bones on blood sacrificing black Americans and black leaders for their cause. So you can find out this. Matter of fact, the first FBI agent of color, the first black FBI agent, his code name was Agent, I believe 800, was hired by FBI to neutralize Marcus Garvey, to spy on and neutralize Marcus Garvey. Let's Google up Agent 800 and Marcus Garvey, and you'll find all that information. So that's why I'm doing this show. That's to educate, not only to entertain, but to educate the people. Do the research. Stop getting your emotions, because we can't get nowhere. Y'all all crying and getting mad and angry at the messenger. I didn't slander your guy. I was just telling like the T.I. is. I was just telling like it is. I was making it plain. And all this stuff can be found online. But I'm just saying, I'll tell people that Black history is better than Hollywood fiction. Because when you find out the truth about Black history, about our people's story, about our narrative, man, it's like, damn, tell me the truth instead of just letting me live with this lie. But this system is built on lies and deception. Like I said, we can't even be honest about Christmas. I mean, most holidays, it seems to be built around mythology. Even Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving is the way a lot of us celebrate Thanksgiving was not how it originally went off in real life in the history of things. But it's all about, as far as for Black people, I want us to reclaim our narrative and to help this get passed on from generation to generation. Because to me, I never heard about Hakeem Jamal until December 27, 2018. And this guy was crucial in forming the organization that helped launch Dr. Karenga. This is Malcolm X's cousin who helped launch an organization who helped found Kwanzaa. Because this was the reason. After Malcolm X's death, this is from Wikipedia, Jamal joined with Malana Karenga and others to found US, an organization to promote African American cultural unity. He had already circulated a self-produced magazine entitled Us, a pun on the phrase us and them, and the accepted abbreviation of the United States. This promoted the idea of Black cultural unity as a distinct national identity. Jamal and Karenga published a magazine, Message to the Grassroots, in 1966, in which Karenga was listed as chairman and Jamal as founder of the new group. Once again, Message to the Grassroots, they come from the Malcolm X piece, a Message to the Grassroots. So it was heavy into Malcolmology. And they said the magazine they founded, they listed Karenga as chairman and Jamal as founder of the new group. That's Malcolm X's cousin. Jamal argued that the ideas of Malcolm X should be the main ideological model for the group. However, Jamal's views increasingly differed from Karenga's. Jamal continued to emphasize his cousin's radical politics, while Karenga wished to root Black Americans in African culture. Jamal saw no point in projects such as teaching Swahili and promoting traditional African rituals. He left us to establish the Malcolm X Foundation based in Compton, California. So let's read about him, man. Ain't too much on the internet like it should be about Hakeem Abdullah Jamal, Malcolm X's cousin, but this is why I'm telling you why I want us to plant these seeds and we create this information about this brother. He need to be reinstated. And what happened to him, like I said, his white woman slave, Gail Benson, was murdered, buried alive. Man, they hacked her. They slashed her throat with a machete, put her in a grave while she was still breathing. She was buried alive and she died. And a year later, May 1st, 1973, some brothers came into his apartment and shotgunned him to death or shot him multiple times. About 4 or 5 brothers came into his apartment in Roxbury, Massachusetts, which is Boston. He's from Boston or Roxbury, where Malcolm X's half-sister Ella had her home in Roxbury, where Mr. Louis Farrakhan was raised in Roxbury, Boston. So Boston got a very powerful Black history. Yeah, but he was killed, and they blame it on a group known as the Mau Mau. They Mau Mau. They try to highlight that this was a factional dispute linked to Jamal's attacks on Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm, he followed Malcolm to the Nation of Islam, his brother Jamal. And when Malcolm left, he left the nation. Malcolm was very critical of Elijah Muhammad. He became very critical of Elijah Muhammad. Just like those murders of those Black Muslims down in D.C. The whole family got wiped out by the Black Mafia of Philadelphia, who were part of the Nation of Islam in Philadelphia. They wiped out that whole family. That guy used to be a spokesperson for Elijah Muhammad, and he was close to Malcolm X as well. And I believe there was a home that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar donated to that guy, that brother, called the Hanafi murders or something like that. Not mistaken, but you can look all this stuff online. You don't have to help me as your truth speaker. Just take the chance and look up some of this information. It's at your fingertips. I think it's called the Hanafi murders or Hanafi. murders. From 1973, 2 adults and a child were shot to death. 4 other children ranging in age from 9 days to 10 years old were drowned. 2 others were severely injured. The murders took place at 7700 16th Street, Northwest Washington, D.C., in a house purchased for a group of Hanafi Muslims to use as the Hanafi American Muslim Men's Rifle and Pistol Club. The property was purchased and donated by then Milwaukee Bucks basketball player Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So that massacre, the 1973 Hanafi Muslim massacre, took place on January 18, 1973. Man, woo. So y'all look all that stuff up, brothers and sisters. But yeah, they said this group killed this brother, Malcolm X's cousin, was the Mau, like the Mau out in Kenya. That's what they said. So 4 or 5 brothers went to jail over that, or they were convicted. Like I said, there's really not much information on this brother. I saw like a 30-second clip of Hakim Jamal online that you probably look up while you still can, but there's not too much. They scrubbed him out the history book. Time to reinstate their ancestor back into the history of our narrative. But yeah, but I mean, just look all this stuff up. I'm not knocking the founder, but we all got skeletons in our closet. We all got things we're not proud of. And like somebody said, maybe this was his way to redeem himself for all the things he did wrong. Maybe this is a redemptive song, so to speak, with this Kwanzaa thing. But I just want people to know the truth of what you celebrate. You should never join an organization or join anything without doing the research. But, a lot of us are guilty of that. We want something real bad. We all want to be a part of something that's bigger and grander than ourselves. We all want to be a part of something. We want to have purpose. I think we do. I can't speak for everybody. I know I want to have purpose in my life. I'm always seeking something to be part of something that's bigger than me. I know I'm not perfect in my walks and steps, but I just want y'all to know it is what it is. Don't try this guy past did not exist. And to me, this is not personal. Like I said, I was not attacking this brother by pointing out his flaws. Now, people like Dr. John Henry Clark, you can look at what he got to say about Kwanzaa. There's a lot of elders respect their elders and not in agreement with the brother, Karenga. But then you got elders that respect the thought of what Kwanzaa represent. The seven principles of Kwanzaa is not a bad thing to practice in your daily life. It's not a bad thing to make part of your moral compass. But to me, to have a moral compass is to have knowledge of self. Your moral compass should not be dictated by the whims of society, whose whims and so trendy, everything changes with the winds. You should have a moral compass for yourself, a personal relationship with yourself, an understanding of your own values. You should honor your character and honor your integrity by having your own moral compass. And don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. So you make up your mind about Kwanzaa. My thing is, I'm not against Kwanzaa. I have no qualms with Kwanzaa. Although people might think I do because I just told them a truth they can't handle. But my thing is like the Panther Party. Like people say, in order to change some things, you got to raise and heighten the contradictions. We need to heighten the contradictions in order to bring about some discomfort, in order for us to confront some traumas, in order for us to heal as a people, heal as individuals, as well as heal as people. We must heal each other and heal ourselves. So we got to heighten the contradictions in order to bring about the awareness that we need to change something about how we've been doing things. It can no longer be business as usual to do these things. So we got to come to grips with that. Same thing with Alex Haley. It's interesting. I had Baba Dick on here before. He talked about how Alex Haley did not write Roots. He did not co-write the autobiography of Malcolm X. He told me that it was the Playboy editor, Murray Fisher, that wrote the autobiography of Malcolm X. And that Alex Haley stole the concept of Kunta Kinte from a book called The African, written by Dr. Harold Corlander, a white man, which was published in the 60s. He stole the concept of Kunta Kinte from that book. And the only reason we know about this really is because it became such an epic bestseller. And then the movie came out, the original Roots came out, and it just held the nation's attention like it was the Super Bowl. There's so many people looking at Roots. I mean, black and white, people of all backgrounds were just checking out Roots every night, just look at it. It was an amazing experience. And it inspired so many black Americans to try to research their roots. And I believe it was a black couple who specialized in genealogy. Now, don't quote me on this directly. Take a look. It's all online. They actually was trying to trace the origins of Kunta Kinte, but they kept on running into roadblocks and whatnot. They couldn't find certain type of information that should have been easy to find out. Come to find out, A.L.L made up this so-called ancestor of his. Kunta Kinte was based on the information from Dr. Harold Corlander's book called The African. So A.L.L was actually sued back in the 70s. And one of his friends, I believe, testified in court that they gifted the book The African to A.L.L while he was writing his book Roots, supposedly. So the publishers had to pay Dr. Harold Corlander people some money, which was a lot of money back then. And you got to think about it. If I wrote two of the biggest selling books of all time, Roots, and the autobiography of Malcolm X, why would my estate be having financial trouble? At the end of his life, A.L.L was owing people money. And so to me, it's like, it'll be akin, I ain't gonna say like, look at J.K. Rowling, the lady who they say wrote the Harry Potter series. She's a billionaire off those books. Now, I'll be surprised if she died broke. I mean, how can you die broke when you wrote one of the best-selling book series of all time and it made you a billionaire? But I think A.L.L died broke. His estate owed money, and they should never owe money. You think he should be owing money if you wrote these books, but he didn't write the books, and they came out in court? So I believe that maybe his editor did write. He did write the autobiography of Malcolm X, Murray Fisher. A.L.L first interviewed Malcolm X for Playboy. He worked for Playboy magazine, and he first met Malcolm X while he interviewed him for Playboy. So it is fascinating. But look up this situation with A.L.L. And to add like to Geronimo Pratt that what happened to him was a travesty. But also it was like a lot of infighting going on because of COINTELPRO. So when you judge Karenga, you gotta look at what was going on at the time. We had a lot of Black Panthers, for example, being set up by other Black Panthers to get killed. You think about what happened to Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. up in Chicago, who was murdered by the FBI and Chicago police in the wee hours of the morning on December 4th, 1969. His chief bodyguard, security guy, William O'Neill, was an FBI informant who supplied the floor plans of his apartment to the FBI, who gave them to the Chicago Police Department. And this guy, William O'Neill, basically prepared Fred Hampton's last meal. Like I said, they were all about taking down the Black Messiah since they took down Marcus Mosiah Garvey back in the 20s. But William O'Neill, the FBI informant and chief bodyguard, prepared the guys who was caught sleeping or off guard was the ones who died. Mark Clark being the defense captain. But with Geronimo Pratt, you got to look about it. This guy was able to, I guess, forgive the US organization. This guy was the cat that took over for the LA Black Panther chapter after the assassination of our Prentice Bunchy Carter by the US organization. He told them in the event of his demise, he wanted Bunchy wanted Geronimo to take over and lead, and he did that. but Geronimo had a falling out with Huey P. Newton, who was one of the founders of the Black Panther Party, because of the situation with Eldridge Cleaver. Huey P. Newton, after he got out of prison or whatever, once he went through what he went through after killing that police officer, he wanted to go for being active revolutionary, like the direct action revolution, to transforming the organization into a survivalist program. They have the breakfast programs, the health clinics, and whatnot. Meanwhile, Eldridge Cleaver, who wrote that book in prison, his magnum opus, Soul on Ice, I believe called, yeah. I believe it's Soul on Ice, that book Eldridge wrote. It's worth the read. It's an interesting read. He was exiled. I mean, he basically left the country in fear of his life after the thing that went down with the police shootout. They got one of the original Black Panther Party for self-defense members, Bobby Hutton, who's just 17 years old, killed just days after Dr. King got assassinated in Memphis. So Eldridge wanted to still do the armed struggle, to still do revolution. He's from Algeria. He's up in Algeria. Up in Algeria, hiding out, fighting stuff, doing stuff overseas. But Geronimo sided with Eldridge. So it was a split in the Panther Party. Some people supported Eldridge. Other folks went with the Camp Huey Newton. And Huey didn't like the disloyalty he felt from Geronimo. Because the reality was, Geronimo was in prison for something he did not do. He was in prison for 27 years for something he did not do. He had solid alibis. It was just a white female teacher that was killed, I believe, in L.A., but Geronimo was like 300 miles away at a meeting for the leadership of the Black Panther Party. He was with other Black Panthers in a meeting, and he was under surveillance by the government. The FBI had surveillance, had the phone taps, had footage, had cameras, photographs, from my understanding, of him being at the meeting with the other Panther leaders of the organization up in Oakland. So how could he sit in jail for 27 years and he was in a meeting with other Black Panthers? This is a couple of reasons. First of all, the government did not share that they had this man under surveillance with his trial. We had the jurors in the trial did not know that the government had this man under surveillance with photographs and tap phone conversations. Another thing that people in the Panther leadership were told by Huey P. Newton not to supply Geronimo Pratt with an alibi. Once again, it is alleged that Huey P. Newton told people who were at the meeting, people like Bobby Seale and David Hilliard, they were told not to supply an alibi for brother Geronimo Pratt by Huey P. Newton, because Huey P. Newton was pissed that Geronimo Pratt took sides with Eldridge Cleaver in terms of ideology. Look, this is what happened. You think about what happened with Karenga and Malcolm X's cousin, Hakeem Jamal, where they parted ways because Karenga wanted to do the cultural awareness and empowerment thing with the Kwanzaa stuff, where Hakeem Jamal wanted to pick up where his cousin left out with the revolutionary radical politics and organizing and organized grassroots for armed struggle for liberation. So let's show you how everybody was kind of like infighting. I mean, this is not unusual for organizations and strong personalities to butt heads every now and then over ideological differences and direction. So this is why we need to study history, because Karenga, we look at his actions. It did not happen in a vacuum. Huey P. Newton has been accused. Like I said, he got away. He was facing an electric chair or whatever, death penalty in California. He killed that cop more than like he did kill that cop, but it is what it is. Police was killing a lot of Black folks and getting away with it for years. They accused Huey of killing a teenage prostitute. He had to leave the country, went to Cuba for safety, and then come back until the coast was clear. Huey P. Newton been accused of shaking down drug dealers, trying to control the drug trade up in California and Oakland. Been accused of shaking down pimps, even killing some people. Think about the Mac, the movie The Mac. Look at it was a pimp that was a consultant on the Mac, and he got killed right before the movie came out. And I believe They were saying that some membership of the Black Panthers, some people connected with the Black Panthers in Oakland, has something to do with his death. But I'm not gonna tell y'all all that. Y'all need to go do the research because it's sad that our people don't do research. For the majority of the time, like I celebrate stuff like Kwanzaa, don't know the backstory behind the founding of Kwanzaa. Now, like I said, I don't disagree with the principles. I'm not against Kwanzaa. I just want y'all to know that the founder has a troubled past. But like a friend of mine used to say, Sister Margaret Block, who was a phenomenal, legendary civil rights activist. She come from an activist family. Her brother was the late great Sam Block, who was the field secretary for SNCC in North Mississippi. But even in their family, they had a Benedict Arnold, so to speak. Her uncle, who was a well-known, respected black educator in Mississippi, turned out to be a spy for the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission. Mississippi Sovereignty Commission is there. They ran the government down Mississippi. The White Citizen Council, they was in charge of the government. They were spying on activists who were citizens of Mississippi. They were sending black folks to spy on people like Medgar Evers and M.Z. Moore and all these great civil rights leaders and activists in Mississippi. Black leadership, Aaron Henry. They were using people to spy against them. But it was people that look like us. Just like when the FBI hired the first black FBI agent, they used him to try to neutralize and take down Marcus Garvey. The first black agents in the FBI were used to try to take down Marcus Garvey. So COINTELPRO stuff did not just start in the 60s. But I just want to tell y'all this Geronimo Pratt thing, because Tupac, that was his godfather. And you got to understand Tupac, you didn't write Tupac off of just being a gangster rapper. Tupac come from revolutionaries. His mama was a revolutionary, Afeni Shakur, the Black Panther Party. His aunt, Assata Shakur, had to escape America, went to Cuba for protection. Then you look at his godfather, Geronimo Pratt, who not only suffered almost in 30 years in prison for something he did not do, and it was basically a kangaroo trial. Like I said, the government knew that he was not there on their tennis court and killed and robbed that white lady. The Black Panthers knew, but they didn't testify on his behalf. And I believe back in 1992, Bobby Seale and David Hillard came out with the truth about them being not allowed to testify on orders of Huey P. Newton. This is what they're saying, because Huey was killed. Huey P. Newton was killed back in '89. And I believe he, on a parole violation, he was sent to the same prison where Geronimo Pratt was back in 1988. He had to spend 60 days in prison. So they had a run-in. And I think Huey was in fear of his life because he knew what he did to railroad Geronimo Pratt. And that's what I'm reading. You can't believe everything you read. Let's take it with a grain of salt, but do your research and come to your own conclusions. And like I said, study what happened back then, because there was a lot of turncoats. There was another guy involved in the Geronimo Pratt thing. He was an FBI informant, Julius Butler, but he was known as a guy that was going around torturing people and possibly killing people. But he testified against Geronimo Pratt, and he was an agent for the government. And even he knew, from my understanding, that Geronimo Pratt was not there. But he had a grudge against Geronimo Pratt, because I believe he wanted to run the Black Panther Party chapter in L.A. after the assassination of Apprentice Bunchy Carter. But Bunchy Carter made it known that he wanted Geronimo Pratt, somebody who he respected immensely, to be in charge. So 1969 was an interesting year because you had, at the beginning of the year, you had the assassinations of Apprentice Bunchy Carter and John Huggins in UCLA. That's January 17th, 1969. Then December 4th, 1969, you had the state assassination of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. and Defense Captain Mark Clark on the west side of Chicago. So 69 was a very, very tough year for the Black Panther parties and for the Black liberation struggle, because you lost some dynamic, charismatic, organizing, for real foot soldiers, frontline brothers for the struggle. We lost some real ones, man. These guys were killing their 20s. They really never had a chance. So I can understand like a brother like Judge Joe Brown, who personally knew Apprentice Bunchy Carter, who recruited a lot of the Black Panthers to UCLA, who's from California. I can understand why he may not care for Karenga. But like I said earlier, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Kwanzaa is not necessarily a bad idea, but at the same time, don't make it like a, Don't be scared. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, black folks still catching hell. You know, Kwanzaa was invented in 1966. The same issues that they dealt with back then, we're still dealing with, but now they become more amplified. I believe folks had more hope back in 66. Black folks had more hope back in 66 than they do now. Because, you know, you had a different situation with the economy where the economy was booming. It was enough for black folks to get a piece of the American dream. To buy a Cadillac every year, to work at a job for 1 year. I mean, not for 1 year, but to be able to work at a job for about 30 to 40 years. Be able to help one person work in the household that could take care of a family of four without no problem. Without your wife getting a second job or you getting a side hustle, you can work one job for 40, 30 years, send out your kids to school, retire with a good pension, and, live the American dream. Now it's the nightmare. And before I go, let me let y'all should check out that Suge Knight documentary on Showtime, American Dream, American Nightmare. It's worth checking out because Suge came from a two-parent household. You know, they interviewed his parents, and then you could tell they love each other dearly. They might have went through some struggles. I believe his mom was on some type of a breathing machine, but you could tell they were very, very proud of their son. But you could tell they had a close family. I mean, his uncles, his daddy brothers are like from Mississippi. They all from Mississippi, I believe. Snoop Dogg folks from Mississippi. Nate Dogg is from Clarksdale, Mississippi. Smoke weed every day. I'm gonna do a commentary about Suge Knight and that documentary and some things as well, and touch on this Tupac stuff. And I just want people to learn how to think and think big enough to understand that, really it's bigger than the shooter. When you deal with things about assassinations and stuff like that, it's not even important that we know the name of the shooter. We gotta understand the machination that caused that man or one man to be the shooter in the first place. Let's understand that. I want to teach my people to free their mind, but with the Karenga thing, like I said, people attack me. I'm just a messenger. Do the research. Just a quick Google search. Stop all this nonsense you deny. I know it's traumatizing to know the truth about Karenga. I know it's traumatizing to know that it was black folks that helped kill Emmett Till, and y'all don't want to talk about that. Yeah, it was black folks that helped kidnap and kill Emmett Till. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that molester or those incestuous relationships in our community, in our families. And that's another segment. I believe now I got to start talking more. I got to start just living my purpose and this. Not worry about, not apologize, because, God, I'm doing my God work. I have information I've been sitting on for years about stuff, man. Because it's hard, because you're dealing with yourself. You're dealing with your own shortcomings, your own insecurities, fears, and doubts. Everybody talking. You know what I'm saying? And that's great. I'm glad that we at a place where everybody can have their own show, their platforms can be heard. But, my name is heard. I run with a pack. I believe in helping the community, investing in people, but also I have something to say. I was given something to say by the Most High. I'm going to say it. So this is why I'm talking about the Karenga thing, because a lot of y'all too much being y'all feelings about stuff. My people, black people. But if Sandra Bland still dying in prison and we ain't did nothing about it, if Trayvon Martin, the Tamir Rice's, the Mike Browns, Katrina, all this stuff, Flint, all this stuff is still happening. Kwanzaa was invented in 66, but yet black folks still catching hell in 2018 going to 2019. Something got to change, man. Something got to change. It's not about, well, we're going to attack so-and-so because we don't agree. We all should be able to agree to disagree. And let's do the research. Honor the research. We don't have to name call each other. Because a lot of y'all don't know the work I've been putting in. Out in the streets. I put in work out here. I just don't be telling people all about my receipts. I got to start doing that more now. Because y'all got to understand, I'm not just podcasting and live streaming. This is just part of the platform. You got to control your propaganda. You got to control your narrative. This is why I do what I do on this. But man, my organization, we doing stuff out in the streets, man. We should be better respected. We should be invited to speak at Kwanzaa things, to participate, to be honored at Kwanzaa. Yeah, I said it. What We All Be Group Incorporated has accomplished this year alone. We reclaim the narrative for our ancestors. Stars, not sisters. The ancestors. We doing it big, and we're going to do it bigger in 2019. So Don't take my word for it. Take a look. It's all online. Everything I said, look it up for yourself. Be blessed, y'all. More to come, okay? But yeah, I just want to say all these things. Think about Jerome Pratt, Tupac's godfather. Got out in 97. Tupac was name calling, name checking Jerome Pratt and other political prisoners in his raps. Even on All Eyes on Me, he was calling them out. You know what I'm saying? And they free and said that he wasn't able to be alive when his godfather got free from prison. But you can't look at Tupac and say, oh, he was trying to gang bang and be a blood. You got to look at Tupac bigger than that. Tupac only lived 4 more years. Only lived 4 more years than Fred Hampton when they took Fred Hampton off the planet at 21. Tupac knew about Fred Hampton growing up. His mama made sure he knew about Fred Hampton. Okay? Struggle is real. Liberation could be. And we all be in it to win it. But a lot of my people, man, they call them conscious and aware. We can't deal with this, but we got to heighten the contradictions because I want our people to be free for generations to come. We have so much trauma that we got to unleash from ancestral memory, generational trauma, even our own personal trauma during our lifetime that we have accrued. I can only speak for myself. I'm dealing with this right now. So I'm just trying to get through it so I could just have a better life, quality of life, and be more free. So I want everybody else to be encouraged in their faith walk and their truth walk as well to get this information. I want to encourage you all to support this movement. Feel free to super chat. Y'all can donate money. We broadcasting live. Y'all can donate money real time. You can find us on PayPal. Look up the email r2c2h2@gmail.com. Once again, that's r2c2h2@gmail.com. You can make a tax deductible donation. You can buy some R2C2H2 art at r2c2h2.com. Also, look below the video. You see we got a shelf full of t-shirts with R2C2H2 art on it. Go down there, access some of that good artwork on shirts. Buy that. Everything you do is to support the movement, the info movement, because knowledge is the currency of the universe. And what can you do? You become a Patreon. Or you can become a patron on patreon.com/weallbe. So thank you all once again. In the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing.